been called to an elderly woman's home where apparently a robber has stolen some precious jewelry and fine china from her house. However, we have recovered a cup containing fingerprints that we believe to belong to the robbers.
For fingerprint dusting, you'll need magnetic fingerprint powder, a magnetic applicator, a petri dish, clear tape, and latex gloves.
You must find the print on the object. Next, you will pick up the magnet and put it over the magnetic powder. Once that is complete, you will rub in a circular motion over the print to make it more visible. Once that is done, you will be able to see the print on the cup. Now take the clear masking tape and cut a little piece that will be placed over the print. Now place the piece of tape over the print and press down, making sure to leave no air bubbles or else the print will not be completely lifted. Once you have finished putting the tape on it, you will be able to remove it and place it on a piece of paper so that it may be clearly seen. Latent prints are one of the 3 categories of fingerprints that can be found at the scene of a crime. They are prints that are not visible to the naked eye but do exist. These prints are created because the fingers have tiny outlets for the expulsion of sweat, and these outlets pick up salts, oils, and tiny particles of dirt along the way. These particles, amplified if you run your fingers through your hair or rub your face, can then be passed to hard surfaces.
In a fingerprint, the ridges around the main shape are called the minutiae. The minutiae is what distinguishes one fingerprint from the next and makes them unique. This is why it's very important for forensic scientists to get an entire picture of the fingerprint and not just a small portion. There are 3 main types of fingerprints. The first is the loop pattern. In the loop pattern, the ridges flow to one side, and there's only one delta. There are 2 types of loop patterns. One is the ulnar loop, where it loops towards your ulna bone, and the second is the radial loop, where it loops towards your radius. Loop patterns are the most common fingerprint, as they account for 70% of all fingerprints. The second type of fingerprint is a whorl pattern. A whorl pattern has 2 deltas. In a plain whorl and a central pocket whorl, there is a clear circle or bullseye shape in the middle of the 2 deltas. However, in a double loop whorl or an accidental whorl, the shape is more ambiguous. Whorl patterns account for 25% of all fingerprints. The third type of fingerprint is an arch pattern, which is exactly what it sounds like. The minutiae on the finger form an arch shape, and there are no deltas. There are 2 types of arch patterns, the plain arch and the tented arch. The only difference is that the tented arch has a steeper incline. Arch patterns account for 5% of all fingerprints.
First, we printed Mariah Silver's fingerprints. She is the elderly woman's neighbor and has a record with the police already for robbery and break-ins. When looking at Mariah's index fingerprint, one can see that it is a radial loop pattern and that it contains a delta and a bridge in its minutiae. Next, we printed Shannon Pears. She is a recently released convict and has just moved to the area near the elderly woman. Shannon's index fingerprint was a ulnar loop and it only had one delta. Last we did Walter Duloc, the elderly woman's grandson, who has been known to have trouble around the area. When looking at Walter's index fingerprint, one can see that it matches the crime scene print due to it being a whorl pattern and having two deltas and a dot. We know our fingerprint evidence will stand in court and put away Walter for a long time due to fingerprints being so individual due to the minutia.